Turn to Matthew 27.
Hey, he's in the New Testament too.
Every once in a while. This was message number 2 this week. It didn't start as this message and had an Old Testament message all lined up. And just couldn't settle on it. And I came down out of my office last night and Roy said, "Well, you got a message?" I said, "Well, I don't know. Not really." And I had a whole sheet of stuff ready to go. And I just can't settle, so no message. So I laid down in bed to go to sleep, and this other message popped into my head. So I said, well, I thought about it all night. Woke up this morning thinking about it. I said, went up, little bitty message. It just, when I sat down to do it, it just went, just opened up. I said, well, I'm guessing this is the one. She said, it must be nice. But well, it wasn't always this way.
I understand that.
When we were in Pennsylvania, I used to walk around the church. I'd go, church was at 7:30, I'd go at 4. I'd walk and pray that church for hours. And the music would start and I'd still be trying to put the message together at 7:45 or 8 o'clock. 4 hours later, I'm still trying. Yeah. God was always faithful. He always came through, but boy, He pushed it to the edge at times. Like, Lord, you do know I have to preach, don't you? You didn't forget. So I'm going to start with Matthew 27:62. I'm going to kind of go down from there. What I want to get to, I'm saying I'm starting at 62. No, I'm sorry, I had a 62, but I'm started 51. I don't know why I put 62 down here. What I want to get to is, what happens between faith and experience? How long a road is it between faith and experience? Between hearing something, knowing something, and getting it working in your life? How long a road is that? How many of you have heard something and known, I should have this working in my life? And you kick yourself because you don't. Other people kick you because you don't. You know, the world kicks you because you don't. The devil kicks you because you don't. Everybody's kicking you but God. He's not kicking you. Because He understands. I was reading an article by one of my Aikido instructors, one of my Aikido teachers. She writes an article every once in a while and puts it online on an Aikido forum. And she's one of my friends on Facebook, so I'll see her, and just wonder, well, what's she written lately? She's an English teacher at one of the community colleges around, so she's a good writer. And I like reading her stuff. But she said something that hit me the other day, and when I was reading it, she said in Aikido there's and I don't know what it actually called it, but there's a lesson that they teach all the way through, and the way you learn it is little by little, and that's a what's the word? Principle. A principle. Thank you. That's one of the principles. And I thought about it. I said, that principle spans a lot of cultures and a lot of things. In Christianity, it's the same thing. Line upon line, precept upon precept. That's a principle of Christianity. And we forget that principle. Line upon line, precept upon precept. We learn little by little. Our life grows little by little. But we think, I should know this. What's wrong with me? I should know this. We read it, I should know this, I should have this. And as church people and Christians and preachers, we'll get somebody and, you should know this. Why don't you know this? Wham! Kill the bug. Smash the bug. But we forget the principle of little by little. Now let me pause here and say, don't let your freedom be an occasion for the flesh. Well, I know this, but I can learn this little by little, so I'll just do what I want and learn it later. It doesn't work like that. That's willful disobedience. That's a whole different thing. You've stepped out of the playing field at that point. You're on your own.
Just trying to stretch grace.
Yeah, that's stretched grace way beyond the stretching of grace. It's you've used that grace as an occasion for the flesh. Your freedom is now into flesh and sin. So that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we read something or we hear something, or we see something, and we know what's happened. We know this is where I want to be, or this is what God has spoken into my life, or this is where I'm going, but I'm not quite there yet. But I am going. The principle is, I know where I'm going to be, and I know where I am, and this principle is the road from where I am to where I'm going. It's not off of that road. It doesn't go left or right. It's here's where I am, here's where I'm going, little by little takes me to that. So let me make sure I have that correct and balanced and everybody understands what I'm saying. But what happens between faith and experience? Anybody ever thought of that? Because we kill ourselves knowing I should live this, but I don't. How many of you, if God has spoken something into your life at some point, you've been prophesied to, you've read it in the Bible, you know it's there, you know we're going there, you know this is happening, you know this is where God's taking me at some point, but I'm just not there. You know, and whether it be a point in my life that the Lord spoke to me a long, long time ago, said one of the first things, said, you're going to preach. The night I got filled with the Spirit, guy pointed me out. I knew it was me. My spirit jumped. I understand what Elizabeth went through when John the Baptist flipped over inside her. My insides did a tumbling match. When he finished with the one guy and was looking around and said, praise the Lord, my insides began to flip and turn. And I always say that was the point I got filled with the Spirit, because something hit me at that point. And then he looked at me and said, the Lord has a word for you. And I stood up and he gave me the word, and I sat down speaking in tongues. Sat down filled with the Spirit. But what it was I'm going to use you to speak forth my word to my people. Well, there was a long, long road between that and knowing what I'm doing. You know, years and years and years and years. I was doing it, but didn't know what I was doing. I was preaching, but we were winging it every time I got up. It was, oh God, help. Please be here this time again. Help me. I was the guy on the lawnmower. Somebody please help me. Because I always knew I was in way over my head. And then it was spoken to me that you're going to go around the world and preach. Well, now I know I'm in over my head. You know, when I don't know about you, but when we were in India, I was standing up preaching. I was about up to here. You know, in over my head. You have 1,000 Indian pastors staring up at you, watching you. And you're going, what am I doing here? Oh my God. It's like, help. And there's no help to be had. But you see, God spoke, but going from speaking to experience was a big jump. There was a long road between that. And I'm hanging here for a reason, because I want you to see in your life that we'll get stuck on, he spoke and I'm not here. You know, he spoke, but that's not me. I don't see it. I don't see it going. So let me start here. What happens between faith and experience? Faith. Jesus spoke, 3 days and I'll rise again. That's in Mark 8:31. I had to go out of Matthew because he didn't say it in Matthew. But he said Mark 8:31, he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders and the chief priests, the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. There's faith. 3 days, rise again. I'm going to be killed. I have to be, what did it say? Rejected, killed, and 3 days, rise again. There's your faith. That's what the Lord spoke. This is going to happen. How many of them believed it? How many of the 12 and extras believed it? You know, the 12 was just the 12. But you had Mary Magdalene, the women that hung out there, you know, kids and family members and whoever was around. How many of them really, really believed it? Some all the way through didn't believe it. But he spoke it. That's faith. In your life, what has God spoken? That's the vision that he set up. Here's what's coming. This is what's going to happen. What happens between now and then? Then we get to verse 62. I'm sorry, verse 51. Nope. No. Yeah. In between the time, what happens between the time he spoke it and the time he actually rose from the dead? What's the big thing that happened?
It's crucified.
There you go. It's easy. The in-between time, what happens? He's crucified and he died. This is the battle. That's the battle that happens. When God speaks to you, what's going to happen between here and there? Battle. Anybody ever experienced a battle? Anybody ever gone through anything? And what's the first thing our minds do? Well, this isn't what God said. God didn't tell me this.
I didn't sign up for this.
Huh? I didn't sign up for this. This isn't supposed to happen this way. Yeah. Who's writing the rules here? Who's writing this story? I'd like to speak to the author. All he said was, this is what's going to happen. He didn't tell you what was coming up before that. No, there's no promise before that. The promise is, I'm going to rise from the dead. The promise in your life is, for me, you're going to go around the world and preach. He didn't tell me any of the secrets in between. He didn't tell me about Virgil.
Good thing, too.
And all that was going to require of me. He didn't tell me about marriage. I knew I was going to get married, but Lord, I didn't know what that involved. And wait, marriage, it's money, and you got to have a house, and she wants clothes and food and a house. Man, needy woman.
Furniture.
Furniture, yeah. And then got a yard sale. Got a yard sale, 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 yard sale. And eat. She's got to eat David, she has to eat every day. Several times a day. What's wrong with this? I don't have to eat several times a day. I do, but I don't have to. Give me one good bowl of cereal in the morning and I am good. Unless I'm working around the house. Then cookies. That's how that's how I balanced out the rest of it. That's my equalizer. That was back then.
That was back then. Yeah. What's for supper?
Things have changed.
About 10 o'clock in the morning. What's for supper?
Have to think ahead. But you see, the Lord didn't tell me about Virgil and about marriage and about ministry and about dealing with people and about dealing with money and about dealing with myself. He didn't tell me all this stuff. All he said, you're going to go around the world and preach. Hey, let's go. Let's get on the plane. We forget the middle stuff, the battle. Jesus, to rise from the dead, he had to be crucified. He had to die. For you to rise from the dead into the will of God for your life, you have to be crucified. You have to die. Woohoo! Nobody's jumping up and down and shouting for that. Yep. Verse 51. So Jesus died and he was crucified. I don't know why I put this here. But it said, behold, the veil of the temple was rent in two from top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks did rent, and the graves were open. I have no idea why I put that there. I put that there for a reason. I want to start there, I think. And we go down, we go down through all of this. Now when the centurion and heard that Jesus saw, no, that's not what I wanted. Many of the women were beholding him, Mary Magdalene, all these guys were looking at him. The battle, the battle was he had to die. Then the rocks, everything moved. Heaven and earth moved. He died. Stuff happened. God, I know why I put that there. I didn't put an extra note. I just put the scripture. It's like, why did you do this? What happens? He had to die. He had to be crucified. He had to die. When he died, what started to happen? Verse 51 started to happen. The veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth quaked and the rocks were torn. God was showing, I'm on this scene. We get in the battle and we forget God's on the scene. God's in the middle of all of this. We forget this is what's going to happen. You're going to rise again in 3 days. God never forgot.